Hi, this is Tim from Epic Travel Adventure, and this is my sidekick Chappie. As you can see, Chappie's having a little scratch there. I'm going to show you the greatest lakes from around the world, and they're going to be a lot better than this one. In the shadow of the snow-covered Rhaetian Alps, Lake Como is the most spectacular of all the lakes. Shaped like an upside-down letter Y, measuring 120 kilometers in all, its squiggly shoreline is scattered with villages, including the exquisite Bellagio, in the center of the inverted V on the lake's southern shore. Where the southern and western shores converge is the lake's main town, Como. Lecco, the other large town on the lake, sits where the southern shore meets the lesser explored eastern shore. Like the other Italian lakes, Lake Como has been popular as a resort since the days of the Roman Empire. Visitors ever since have admired the blue waters and relaxed in luxurious villas in the wooded lakeside slopes above. Today, most of the towns around the shores of Lake Como are popular with tourists, walkers, cyclists and swimmers. It's a place where you can stroll amid palm trees and blooming rhododendrons whilst admiring snow-capped mountains. Blessed with a superb microclimate, Lake Como in northern Italy is the kind of place that leaves you searching for fancy words to capture its exquisiteness. But a simple bellissima, which means beautiful, is a start. You can sail on the water by hiring a vintage Arriva speedboat to take you on a tour of the lake's villas and villages.
Hello?
Mr. White, we need to talk.
Who is this?
Villa La Gaeta, which overlooks the lake, deserves a special mention. It's surrounded by a beautiful park with paths, benches and a lit fountain. In the spring of 2006, the movie Casino Royale was filmed in front of this villa. The last scene of the movie, when Bond shoots and meets Mr. White and utters the famous words, "Bond, James Bond."
The name's Bond. James Bond.
There's some mighty stiff competition in the Canadian Rockies when it comes to glacier-fed lakes. But what makes Maligne Lake, located in Jasper National Park, so stunning is the surrounding landscape. Perfect foreground pines, majestically jagged background mountains and blue skies. Maligne Lake is the largest natural lake in the Canadian Rockies. Ringed by snow and ice-capped mountains, the 22-kilometre long lake stretches past serene Spirit Island right to the meltwater channels of Coronet Glacier. An open forest of pine and spruce, home of moose, caribou and harlequin ducks and many other types of wildlife, surround visitors at the north end of the lake. Hiking and in the winter cross-country skiing trails make this a popular retreat at all times of the year. Maligne Lake was originally known as Beaver Lake by the native tribes who lived near Jasper. In 1907, Mary Schaefer, a wealthy Quaker from Philadelphia, learned of this mysterious lake. Following a map obtained from Samson Beaver, a Stoney tribesman, Mary found the lake and later wrote about her adventures, making the area a popular tourist attraction in years to follow. One of the most picturesque in the Canadian Rockies is the image of Spirit Island in the middle of Maligne Lake. The island is 14 kilometres up lake and there is no road or trail access. Tour boats or private non-motorised craft are the only means of reaching Spirit Island. Pichola Lake is one of the most beautiful and picturesque lakes of Rajasthan, India. Located in the heart of the city, Pichola Lake is the oldest and one of the largest lakes of Udaipur. In 1362, the beautiful lake was built by Pichu Bajara. In 1559, a city palace was built on the lake. Since then, Lake Pichola, one of the chain of lakes in Udaipur, has enjoyed an elevated status, even though it was artificially created. Adding to its allure are two islands, each with its own palace, that look spectacular when silhouetted at dusk. You can sail across the lake to visit Jag Mandir Island Palace, where royals used to hold parties and have your own royal meal. Lake Pichola comprises several islands that accompany the calm waters of the lake. Jag Mandir is another destination of tourists and is located on an island of the lake as well. Above all, a trip to Lake Pichola would be incomplete without a boat ride. The pristine blue waters of the lake leave a soothing impact. At the time of sunset, a boat ride in this lake is sufficient to enthrall everybody. By the way, Rudyard Kipling, who wrote the Jungle Book, also wrote about this lake in his letters back home. West Lake is man-made and created after the Chinese love for garden-style parks for recreation. It's in the western suburbs of the historic centre of Hangzhou. West Lake is the symbol of Hangzhou and is considered one of the most beautiful sights in China. West Lake was selected as one of the 12 superb sunset spots around the world by CNN. Walking around West Lake is free, so amble around at your leisure and appreciate the beautiful scenery. The best places to photograph sunset views are Broken Bridge, Su Causeway and Yangon Causeway. Spring is the best season for enjoying West Lake. The green leaves and flower blossoms make the lake more beautiful. Thus, March and April is the peak season for West Lake travel. One of the most classic sights at West Lake is at the southern end of Su Causeway. It's one of the most famous sights of West Lake, where many people come every day to see and feed the goldfish at the lake. September to November is very cool at West Lake. The weather is less rainy, which makes it a good season to appreciate the beautiful moonlit at night. West Lake is a popular place to enjoy the Mid-Autumn Festival full moon. 3 pools mirroring the moon is perhaps the most famous of West Lake's classic sights. Its image is printed on the Wang Yung banknote. On the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, when the moon shines full and bright in the sky, a candle is lit inside each of the 3 mini pagodas on the water. The light from the pagoda windows and the moon cast their reflections on the water, hence the name. You can also take a boat cruise to visit some of West Lake's islands. There are many kinds of boats, including large painted boats, small rowing boats and even self-rowing boats. Cruises are available day and night. Finally, there is a music fountain show as well. The fountain area is 126 meters long, erupting into life twice in the day and 4 times in the early evening. Dove Lake is a serene lake in north-central Tasmania and is home to the fabled Tasmanian devil, as well as the more cuddly wallabies and wombats. But the main appeal of Dove's Lake is that it is the starting point of a scenic day's hike as well as the rigorous 40-mile overland track. If you can catch it at the right time and with the wind calm, you can also enjoy a reflection of distinctive Cradle Mountain. Towards the southern end of Lake Dove, you will enter a magnificent cool temperate rainforest known as Ballroom Forest. Ancient beech trees festooned in moss tower majestically from a moss-strewn forest floor. The effect is stunning and is reminiscent of an ancient cathedral. The often photographed boat shed that stands on the northwestern shores of Lake Dove was built in the 1940s by a forest ranger at Cradle Mountain named Leonor Connell. The shed was built largely of King Billy pine. Although some restoration work was completed in 1983, the shed remains substantially unaltered from its original form. Although the boat shed is now vacant, boating was popular on the lake up until the 1960s. Indeed, during the 1920s, Gustav Feindorfer used a very basic and somewhat perilous raft comprised of 2 pine logs connected by a paling deck. He later used a more substantial punt to ferry passengers around the lake. In 1938, the Cradle Mountain Reserve Board purchased 3 Hoon pine boats, which remained in service until the 1960s. It was for these that the Lake Dove and the similar but smaller boat shed at Crater Lake was built. Switzerland has a wonderful array of beautiful lakes, but Lake Lucerne has traits that make it stand out. Encircled by popular excursion mountains, Lake Lucerne is a lake with the greatest scenic variety in the country. It is somewhat reminiscent of a fjord landscape, yet remains characterized by a mild lake climate. Boat cruises on board 5 historical paddle wheel steamers and 15 elegant saloon motor vessels count among the highlights of this region. A steamer cruise across the lake of Lucerne on a sun-filled summer's day is without doubt a wonderful experience, but a trip on a late scheduled sailing through a mild summer's evening or shortly before Christmas towards the Sea of Lights that is the town of Lucerne must at least be just as unforgettable. Trips inside the cosy warmth of the saloon motor vessels whilst the snow-covered winter landscape passes outside can only be described as complete relaxation. A boat trip can be ideally combined with a walk along the Swiss Path, a themed trail on the history of Switzerland. Several cycling and skating paths as well as numerous bathing and rest areas are provided along the lake shores. An excursion to the popular sightseeing and shopping town of Lucerne to include a trip to the Swiss Museum of Transport with its IMAX cinema, the Glacier Garden or a leisurely shopping expedition through the old town is well worthwhile. The German lake name has its origins in the forests that surround the lake. In the past, the lake was an important transit route. Until 1863, in fact, it was the only trade route to the Gotthard Pass. The lake route is still undertaken today by the Wilhelm Tell Express. The trip begins in Lucerne with a cruise to Flüelen and then continues in first-class panorama carriages across the famous Gotthard railway line. Lake Powell is located in northern Arizona and stretches up into southern Utah. It's part of the Colorado River in Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. With nearly 2,000 miles of shoreline, endless sunshine, warm water, perfect weather, and some of the most spectacular scenery in the West, Lake Powell is the ultimate playground. You can rent a houseboat, stay in a campground, or enjoy lodging and hop on board a guided expedition. Sometimes man's handiwork rivals nature, as is the case with Lake Powell, the striking free-form lake created in 1963 by damming the Glen Canyon and creating the US's second largest man-made lake. Other lake activities include swimming, fishing, scuba diving, snorkeling, water skiing, hiking, and sightseeing. Photographic opportunities are numerous. You can even take a scenic flight by plane or helicopter over the lake, which provides a bird's eye view of how far some of these 96 canyons extend from the main channel. Around early June, the lake's waters begin to warm and stay that way well into October, with a clarity unrivaled in other freshwater lakes. Whilst the climate is arid and humidity is generally less than 40%, Lake Powell is classified as a high desert area due to its 3,700 feet elevation. Water temperatures cool significantly in the winter, then rise into the high 70s in the summer. When it does snow in Lake Powell, the contrast of the white against red rock cliffs and the blue waters makes this a beautiful photographing area. Once you travel by boat a few miles from any of the marinas, you'll find yourself in another world with a skyline unmarred by signs of civilization. Lake Powell is named after the Civil War veteran Major John Wesley Powell, who explored the Green and Colorado rivers in 1869 down through Grand Canyon. In August 1869, Powell and 8 of his companions passed through the site of present-day Glen Canyon Dam. Extending nearly 1/3 of a mile across from canyon rim to rim, the dam created the reservoir known as Lake Powell. The lake, which lies partly in Arizona and mostly in Utah, is more than 500 feet deep in places. Whilst Utah has the lion's share of Powell's crystal clear water, Arizona lays claim to the most important part, the dam. It took 17 years from March 1963 to June 1980 to fill the planned level of 3,700 feet above sea level. The lake fluctuates depending on the spring runoff from the mountains and the releases needed to produce electricity from the dam's 8 generators. Lake Powell's tributaries include the Escalante and the San Juan rivers. Both are popular fishing areas. The types of fish found in the lake are striped bass, large and smallmouth bass, catfish and carp. You could spend the next 30 years exploring Lake Powell and still not experience all it has to offer. Lake Titicaca means grey puma in the native language. It's an enormously beautiful body of water with a shoreline divided between South American neighbours Peru and Bolivia. At 22,400 square miles, it is larger than the entire island of Puerto Rico and features a number of islands, some with Inca ruins, as well as a water level that rises and falls an average of 5 feet depending on the season. You can plan a day trip by boat to Tackwheel Island and climb the 553 stone steps up to the ruins. Titicaca is one of the most fascinating lakes in the world. It is situated at a very high altitude at over 3,800 meters above sea level, and a tour at Titicaca is definitely an unforgettable experience for any visitor. When visiting Lake Titicaca, the town of Puno is the best place to stay on the Peruvian side of the lake. The town of Puno is an interesting place to visit as it is the capital of folklore of Peru. It also has a beautiful old cathedral and it is close to many attractions of Peru, like Machu Picchu or the town of Cusco. Lake Titicaca is a sacred place for the Inca civilization, as the Inca mythology says that the first Inca king, Manco Capac, was born there. According to the Inca mythology, this is the place where the world was created from, when God came out of the lake and created the sun, the stars and the first people. You will have many places to discover on the shores of Lake Titicaca, as well as many of the islands that exist on the lake. On the Bolivian side of the lake you will find the fascinating town of Chalalampa, home of the famous labyrinth. Also on the Bolivian side you will find the biggest island on the lake, Isla del Sol, Island of the Sun. Whilst there are no roads on the island, making it not tourism friendly, there are over 180 ruins from the Incan period, making it well worth a visit. Derwentwater near Keswick, Cumbria is 3 miles long, 1 mile wide and 72 feet deep. It is fed by the river Derwent. It has a long historical and literary background. The lake is very much a landscape of moods, varying from the dramatic waves splashing against Friar's Crag when driven by southerly gales, to absolute mirror calm of early mornings. There are 4 main islands: Lord Island, Derwent Island, St Herbert's Island and Rampsholm Island. Lord's Island was once the home of the Earl of Derwentwater, and the ruins of the house can still be found in the undergrowth. St Herbert's Island is named after the hermit who lived there in the 7th century. All of the major islands are owned by the National Trust, as is much of the shoreline. The most popular way to enjoy the beauty of the lake, other than walking around the paths, is around its shores. And one way of doing this is to board one of the Keswick launches which operate around the lake. There is an extensive selection of adventure activity companies, guides and instructors for all abilities based around and on Derwentwater. Though there is plenty of activity with several sailing, windsurfing centres and providers of rowing boats and motorboats, Derwentwater is remarkably peaceful. For the family, whether picnicking, fishing, swimming or just walking, the lake is a holiday in itself. Between 1885, when she was 19, and 1907, Beatrix Potter spent 9 summer holidays at Lingholm and 1 at Faux Park. That's the 2 stately homes whose estates now occupy most of the northern western side of Derwentwater. The 2 houses, their gardens and the surrounding landscape provided material for several of her books. There is a National Trust shop just by the lake at the lakeside car park, from where leaflets can be bought describing family walks around Derwentwater. The town of Keswick is at the north end of the lake and the valley of Borrowdale at the southern end. Lake Tahoe is a beautiful blue lake tucked in the snowy Sierra Nevada mountain range. It welcomes athletes, adventurers and casual travellers to its easy-going and pine-scented surrounds. It has long been sought after for a vacation destination. Lake Tahoe is the nation's 2nd deepest lake, and the area previously served as a transcontinental route for the first railroad and later highways. As roadside stops increased in the area, so did the bustle, attracting travellers who were driven by the lake's beauty and wealth of activities. Over the course of the 20th century, Lake Tahoe blossomed into a scenic location, adored by visitors and locals alike. Exploring Tahoe's towns that surround the lake might make you feel like you're back in the Old West, or freeing yourself of life's unnecessary pressures, by embracing the chilled West Coast vibe that permeates throughout the area. Visiting Lake Tahoe in the summer, where you can paddleboard on the sparkling lake during the day and gaze at the numerous constellations illuminating the sky at night. Or if the idea of flying down a mountain slope on skis quickens your heartbeat, pay Tahoe a visit in the winter. You'll find peak conditions for snowboarding and skiing, and the weather puts you in the perfect mood for curling up with a mug of hot cocoa next to a roaring fire in a log cabin. Lake Tahoe embodies the American dream of having it all. Hike mountain trails in picturesque Tahoe City, bask on sunny beaches in South Lake Tahoe, share the snow-covered slopes of Squaw Valley, explore the niche boutiques and gourmet cuisine as you watch the setting sun seemingly sink into the lake. And that concludes the top 10 greatest lakes from around the world. And if you'd like more videos like this, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to add a comment if you know of more greatest lakes that I should have included. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.